Bizarre Brain Comics.
And now, the adventures of the Spirit, famous fighter of crime beyond the reach of the law.
Every little bug's got a honey to hug but me. Hello, hello. Gary here for Bizarre Brain Comics. Of course, this is where I like to take a look at some older books, older comics, and talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and then examine the stories and the art. What I want to look at today is Will Eisner's The Spirit. It was a comic strip and a comic book, but it was, well, even the comic book was for the newspaper. We'll consult the big book of knowledge right here. Okay, and The Spirit was created by artist and writer Will Eisner. And The Spirit is a fictional masked crime fighter in the fictitious Central City, and is created by Will Eisner. His first appearance was June 2nd, 1940, as the lead feature of a 16-page tabloid-sized newspaper comic book insert section. It was in the Sunday editions of Register and Tribune syndicate newspapers, carried by 20 papers, and these 20 papers had a combined circulation of 5 million copies during the 1940s. And this comic book section continued until October of 1952. Okay, and the vigilante, The Spirit, fought crime with the blessings of Police Commissioner Dolan, and his true identity was detective / criminologist Denny Colt, thought to be killed by criminals. He donned a mask and a blue business suit to fight crime, bearing the name The Spirit. Over the years in production, The Spirit evolved from a straight hard-boiled detective type to crime stories and became stories often revolving around other characters' personal lives, often with witty humor. So it was often interspersed and sometimes entirely humorous stories, and some very, very serious. But it was overall it was kind of campy, and it was fun reading. A few additional stories were published by Harvey Comics, and then Warren Publishing and Kitchen Sink Press reprinted the newspaper feature. And there was also a daily strip, which was produced by anonymous writers and artists. It was all listed under Will Eisner, even during the war, when he wasn't there, when he was in the army. But the best stuff is all Will Eisner. And he had, I guess, a bunch of various assistants working over the years for him. Even Wally Wood, for a short time, did some work with Will Eisner on The Spirit. But from what I gather, he was mostly backgrounds and the like. But you can see he learned a lot from Will Eisner. Wally Wood did on his on the timing, pacing, and the like, and the panel to panel continuity, the general storytelling. Because a lot of his general storytelling, you can see that you look at Wally Wood's work, and then you look at Will Eisner's work, and you can see where Wally Wood got it. So, let us join the spirit in Central City as he fights crime. Okay, here you can get a better view of this. The cover. This is a hardback book. Unfortunately, it is damaged. I don't know how that happened. And this book was published by Kitchen Sink. Was it Kitchen Sink Press from 1982, and reprinting stories from the I think from 47 to 50. This is a real nice cover image, all art by Will Eisner, but this is not original art. This is a composite image from elements from several panels from one of the stories. And of course, Will Eisner, I'll talk more about him another time. But he is one of the big names in the history of comics and graphic novels. And the story we're going to be looking at is from 1950. It's what is unusual is because it's full of flashbacks to the spirit's youth and an early love of his. Now, as I had said, this was from a newspaper, originally published in a newspaper, and it was full color, from what I understand. Yeah, and it so each story was about 7 pages long. That would be usually a splash page, beautifully composed splash pages, and then 6 pages of story. And once in a while, they would be continued, as in this case. Sometimes just loosely connected with thread elements carried over from one story to another. But most of them were one and done. And they were, Will Eisner was master at the craft, both the writing and the art. And he was so well able to so well craft his stories to get a nice complete story in 6 pages. And then we take a look here, and this is what we're going to be looking at here. It's from 1950, Sans Serif. He always had a lot of these puns because Sans Serif, of course, is from sans serif, which is a lettering style. And and here we go. And I wanted to tell you, I'll come back to this. I wanted to tell you about the story that we're going to be looking at. If you happen to have seen the very disappointing Spirit movie from about 10 years ago, which was written and directed by Frank Miller, most of the elements in this storyline was the basis for much of the story in that film. I was so excited when I first saw the Spirit movie coming out, because I've been a big fan of the Spirit for decades now, and I was so disappointed in it. It had excellent production values, all the great performances by all the actors involved. Everything was great, but the writing was a big downfall. It should have been done more like the book. It was too hokey, too campy, and downright silly. Sillier than what you would normally get in The Spirit. Plus, they put it in contemporary times instead of keeping it in the 40s like it was supposed to be. The Spirit doesn't work well outside of the 40s. Now, back to the book. You can see this beautifully drawn splash page with these, and even incorporate the panel borders like this. Kind of very rough, in contrast with the hard borders on the rest of it. And then, of course, the title is incorporated right into the design. It tells you the lighting, gives you the mood, a lot of the mood. And this is where, in the beginning of the story, one of the beat cops from down by the waterfront has gone missing, and they're looking for him, waiting to hear from word of any sign of him. And meanwhile, this is Commissioner Dolan, and he's playing checkers with this little kid, Sammy, who is kind of the Spirit's sidekick slash assistant, and finally they get beating him at checkers. Finally they get a phone call. They got word they found him. He's on the mud flats, and this is a scene that was used directly in the movie. Here they are down here on the mud flats. They're looking around, and because he was found here, he was shot. He's still alive, barely alive. They got to get him to the hospital. So while the tide is out, they're looking around for clues, because this is how they found him. The tide went out, and he's left here on these mud flats down by the riverfront. And Spirit was wandering around because he found this piece of paper here, and he's shocked by what he sees on it. It's a clue. It's a clue, and he's wandering around. Everyone's wondering what happened to the Spirit. And later he turns back up at Dolan's office. Well, not yet, but he's about to. And then this causes him to flash back to his early life, to a love he had. And he was an orphan living with his punchy former boxer uncle and his playmate, Sarif, the same age, and her father was a cop, and they were neighbors and good friends. But the Spirit's uncle was also a petty crook, but he wouldn't hurt anybody. Here he's on being caught in a crime by San's father, and the partner shoots the cop and kills him. And the Spirit's uncle, he remains behind, and he winds up intentionally taking the fall. He was so horrified that his friend was dead. He remained there, comforting the man as he died. So it's caused a rift between Sand and young Denny Colt. And they caused a rift between them, and Sand started getting involved with a criminal element, while Denny Colt grew up even taking a fall for petty theft that she had committed, just to protect her. And he was always wanting to protect her. As they grow older, she gets more involved in the criminal element, while he is studying. He wants to become a cop himself, a detective. And here they are. He's saved her just in time as the crook she was with gets blown away, and he saves her. And another time she's involved in something, he gives her warning, and she tells the bad people, and they take off for Europe. So was about the last he heard of her, because she was involved with the bad people. But then in Europe, In 1939, some German bigwig wants to marry her, so she says yes because it'll be good for her and it'll spare someone. And then she kills him and is involved in the French underground, and then doing some freelance intelligence work for the Allies, having big impact. And then he has had clippings, seeing her for years and years, involved in various nefarious things around the world. And here's the spirit. He takes that little note and burns it. And that's the end of that first part. Then they've done to the second part from the next issue. Bring in Sans Serif. And here you get another wonderful view of Will Eisner's draftsmanship, storytelling, and sense of design. You can see some of this design influence decades later in Jim Steranko. He did the same kind of design work for title pages and splash pages and covers on Nick Fury. So here they are, the cop, waiting to hear word about whether that cop is going to pull through or not. Yeah, he's going to be okay. He's injured, and they talk with him. Yeah, so there was two guys and a woman, and the guy with the dark glasses, he shot him. And so, following hunches and clues, and they find out what they were there for, because they were digging something up, and looking into the history of sunken ships right there in that area. And there was an old Liberty ship bringing back some kind of Nazi biological weapon, and the ship sank right there. So that's it. They recovered that virus. And here we go. We change scenes. This is where the virus is being tested in this thing, and it kills this guinea pig right off the bat. Boom. Yep, there we go. And we'll pay you $1 million. ... But he wants sand. This is the guy from the foreign government who's going to be paying her that she got this for. And he says, "No way, get out." And there's the guy who had helped her, and gets his money. But hey, this is only $20,000. It's supposed to be $70,000. And says, "Yeah, that's minus $50,000 that's going to the family of that cop you shot." Well, and he's not this crook. He's not happy about that. And then, so they split up, and she takes that money in an envelope with a note, and finds the kid. It just happens to be Sammy. "Yes, ma'am. Take this to police headquarters. It's for the spirit." And they open it up, and they find it's the money for the cop. "Quick, Sammy, take me to the hotel where this was." Yes, and they get there and they check out the hotel room. The lady is gone now, but there could be some clue. While he's there, someone is trying to steal that jar that has the dead guinea pig in it. The spirit catches him, but he gets kind of clunked. While in the midst of the fight, the guy with the dark glasses grabs the thing and takes off, and he tries to shoot the spirit. Woo! Sammy tells him where he went. They follow. They take off, and there they are at the pier. Sam's getting her payoff. The guy's getting the formula for the virus, and the other guy, he's going to take off. Come with us. And Sam says, "No, I like it here. This is where I'm from home. With this money, I can give up the criminal life." Well, the spirit shows up. Boom. He tries to shoot the spirit. And he takes him out. They manage to keep the jar safe while the foreign villain is going to shoot the spirit. She takes him out. And he asks, yes, she recognizes him. She knows the spirit is Denny, even though no one else is supposed to. obviously. And oh, he says, what could have been, and I love you, well, blah, blah, yes. And here we have a scene that's not unlike the end of the of Casablanca. But she did help him. She saved his life, and he gives her a 5-minute head start. And so he didn't bring Sans Serif. They foiled the plot. Everyone involved, except for Sand, got caught. Got the guy who shot the cop, got the foreign agent, all that other stuff, and that is the end. But this is a really good story, and you can see this beautiful art, his style. And if you look closely, if you ever look at the real early, as I mentioned last year when I did the Werewolf by Night, especially, and the Frankenstein monster, drawn by Mike Ploog. Mike Ploog had worked with Will Eisner for some time before he did the Marvel stuff, and especially in Mike Ploog's early stuff, you can really see a strong Eisner influence in his work, especially in his female characters. It's some beautiful draftsmanship, beautiful storytelling, visual storytelling. He knew just how to do it, how to time things. You can see like this, boom, that beat there, that beat there, that beat there, just boom, 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 almost like animation. So, some wonderful stuff. We'll talk about Will Eisner more another time. And I hope you enjoyed The Spirit. Maybe this is your first introduction to The Spirit. There was once back in the 80s, a TV pilot movie that didn't get sold. That was of The Spirit. It starred Sam Jones, who had played in the cult classic of Flash Gordon from 1980 or so. And actually, that was better written than the big Frank Miller story movie. But I hope you enjoyed it. So if you've never seen The Spirit before, hopefully this will become be an introduction to him for you, and maybe you can seek out The Spirit. There had been some other Spirit stuff since DC had The Spirit for a while, and they produced new Spirit material. So thank you for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. And remember, comics are art.